Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content that we're going to talk about tonight is something that was snuck out very quietly from the White House and the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. They're building something, and I quote their description, like FEMA, but for mass shootings. Great. What could go wrong? We're going to walk through everything right now, everything we linked in the description box per usual. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. And this content is made possible by Straight Arrow News. They have a podcast called the Weapons and Warfare Podcast. It goes into all the goings on in the war side of things. We got missiles going this way. We got drones going the other way. Lots of stuff. The host, Robert Robertson, takes you through day to day. This is something that I think you will find fascinating. It covers from the frontline deployments, but also the new tech used in warfare, something for everybody. So check them out. There's a link in the description box below. And with that said, beautiful people, we've got to get into what the Gun Violence Office is doing. Because anytime I hear like FEMA, but specialized, I don't get warm, happy feelings. Check it out. Let's get it. After months of tending to foreign policy conflagrations, sticky inflation numbers, and various other pop-up crises, the White House is zeroing back in on a key part of its domestic agenda, gun violence. Wow. Can you tell this is from Politico? After all these struggles, they've risen from the ashes to focus back on something like gun violence. Let's just touch on those real quick. Israel, Hamas, Iran, Ukraine, Russia. Ugh. Yeah, that qualifies conflagrations. Sticky inflation numbers. Yeah, sticky inflation, which is now going back up. So can't talk about that. That's uncomfortable. And various other pop-up crises. The White House is zeroing back. So now it's back to gun violence, guys, domestically, because we really got to shore up that, as they've deemed gun violence shooting survivor generation, in order to mobilize them to get votes, which just happens to be the youngest demographic, of which just happens to be Biden's weakest area. I'm sure all of this is just by happenstance, right? Right? Anybody? No, it's not. It's just terrifying. Let's keep going. Let me show you what they're going to do here. A new emergency response team will meet in person for the first time on Friday in the Roosevelt Room, where it will unveil a new protocol for responding to mass shootings and surges in community gun violence. Notice how that "and" surges in community gun violence? According to plans first shared with the West Wing Playbook. Participating in the initiative, this is a who's who, listen to this, led by the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, by the way, led by Kamala Harris and staffed by Everytown staffers, will be officials from the FBI and the DOJ, Health and Human Services, Education, and Housing and Urban Development, as well as FEMA, AmeriCorps, and the Small Business Administration. Wow, that's a whole lot of people that can be utilized through the executive bureaucratic overreach against gun rights. It's pretty much every bit of it. Healthcare, ooh, sound familiar? Epidemic of gun violence. FBI, DOJ, ATF, overregulations. Housing, remember that whole thing where they basically said landlords don't have to collect rent for a year and a half just by fiat? Yeah. All of these things just happen to be bureaucratic entities that they control without the purview of Congress. I'm sure that's all a coincidence as well. Let's continue, because if you don't see how scary this is, I don't know what got for you, because, good Lord. But one of the guys, Greg Jackson, this is one of the two directors of the Office of Gun Violence Prevention underneath Kamala Harris, who have gun control background in their roots through and through. All right? It was Jackson's job to create this first ever federal protocol. Federal. Notice that? It goes across all states. It's almost like it's a gun control apparatus. He tested it out in real time, coordinating across agencies after shootings in Maine, Chicago, and Kansas City. Now, remember Chicago, continuing gun violence, systemic gun violence, situational gun violence. All of these things are going to be focused on these areas. This is not mass shootings related as it's being pitched. This is wherever there's gun violence, even though they tell you it's not a focused area because it's all guns. Just saying, it's kind of doesn't work too well. Anyway, let's continue. In the immediate aftermath, the Department of Justice will deploy law enforcement and FBI victim services as it previously has. The new White House team will now also jump into action, calling mayors, local legislators, and governors to map out victim needs. And I'm sure that in those conversations, nothing at all was ever going to be brought up about, localized gun control, money availability for red flag laws, Anything that they can ban on a state level, and can they and will they be able to count on the governor's support? I'm sure none of those things will happen when it's going national. Yeah. This is the way that the executive bureaucratic branch and the executive White House administration is going to be direct contact with people in order to put gun control laws in place who happen to be staffed and run and controlled by Everytown for Gun Safety, Bloomberg lawyers and activists. Anyway, let's continue. Let's make sure we get this last piece here, because I'm sure nothing bad can come from this. Jackson will then convene an emergency call with federal agencies to figure out which resources are available and how quickly he can deploy them. Sometimes he'll fly out to the scene to offer extra support on the ground, serving as the primary contact so local officials don't have to worry about keeping track of the web of federal agencies. A lot of resources are now synced up together, and we're just able to move a lot faster to support communities, Jackson said. What would have taken weeks to do, we're now able to do within hours or days. Here comes the federal government on a white horse to save you and everyone that you know. I guarantee you that this is going to be used as an apparatus in times of tragedy to get in and pitch for gun control laws from the White House, directly injecting it into the moment, the legislators and the governors of these areas. This may have the guise of distributing funds and connecting all the FEMA-like resources, but for mass shootings, I guarantee you this is a political injection no matter where this happens. That's more than likely what we're dealing with. And don't worry, though, because the FBI, the DOJ, the HUD, all these different organizations, Health and Human Services, they're all here to make everything so much better. And that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.